Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the brand new Petrified Fish Viper. This right here is in the running for the best high value knife of 2025. Stick around and find out why. So this is a larger EDC knife coming in at 8.27 inches overall. It has a 3.49 inch drop point blade with a beautiful raw stonewash finish that's going to hide wear very well. You got a nice full length top swedge that comes down to thin out that tip. So you have a nice needle-like tip for piercing and doing those detailed drag cuts. And being that this tip sits below the center line of the scales, it's going to be a very versatile blade shape. Like I said, you can use the tip very easy. The piercings, it's already going where you need it to be. And then in-hand cuts is going to kind of act like a recurve, somewhat like the Velocity Nightshade does. It's going to kind of trap that material, and that belly is going to pull deeper and deeper into what you're cutting. You have a very nice functional row of fine cut jimping there. Grabs a hold of the thumb nicely when you're choked back like this. Nice large blade hole. We'll talk about that later. You got a decent sharpening choil. You're going to have to about right here before you have to open that up any. So I'm good with that. That's going to be several sharpenings. Your blade stock thickness is coming in at 0.12, which is kind of chunky, but you got a nice high flat grind on here, and this bad boy comes down to around 15 thousandths behind the edge at the thinnest portion. To top it off, my particular sample came with a 15 degrees per side edge bevel. Yes, you heard me right. So that should be a recipe for a slicing machine. Let's find out. As soon as I saw the look at this, the aesthetics of this one, I got excited. And I started doing this testing. It came with a incredibly sharp edge out of box. And, you know, I've had pretty good experiences with K110. And then it dawned on me that the first knife I ever tested from Petrified Fish, and I was absolutely blown away, was a Petrified Fish Beluga, which is also in Bowler K110. I don't know if they do a really good job on their heat treat or what, but it definitely, at least the ones that I tested, perform better than most production D2 knives that we get today. And the fact that this one is, I think, what, 48 bucks or something like that? Yeah. So the contouring on these scales, even though it's a little thinner than I like, the width makes up for it. It's really comfortable in my hands. I like the smooth texture as well as the rounded over nature of the wire pocket clip. It's not hurting me at all, and I'm able to get a ton of force, being that your natural arc of your wrist cants this blade down, kind of like on the Velocity Nightshade. And just look, I'm not going to speed it up purposely for a while until coming up soon. Look how fast I'm getting through this sisal rope. Once again, that downward arc gives you, the blade, when you point it down, that belly's already facing where you want it to be. That paired with a sharp edge and a very impressive 15 degrees per side. I mean, I'll tell you right now, pretty much every knife that I've ever tested that has 15 degree per side edge bevel, like most Spydercos, if you want to see the max performance on a knife, that's what you want. Now, of course, the steel has to be able to handle that thin of an edge or thinner, but it is such a dramatic increase in performance, and that's probably has more to do with this Bowler K110 performing as good as it does for Petrified Fish, is that they don't send it out with a 27 degree per side edge bevel like some companies do. Everything that I did, it was comfortable. It glided through this stuff like a gazelle. So, yeah, this was probably my favorite knife to test so far this year. I'm talking premium and budget. It did not bother my hands at all. No extra blisters. What else can I ask for? Just as I expected, this one absolutely blew my mind. A great slicer, The ergos on this one were very, very good. You got a fairly neutral handle. That handle arcs down, so it's going to conform to the palm really well. It was nice and comfortable because of the contouring. So far, I'm loving every bit of it. Your pull grip is fine as well. It's not as comfortable as your hammer grip just because of the way this one comes down like that, but it's still more than adequate. It's not uncomfortable or anything. And then if you want to do the reverse gas station knife fight grip, you can, because the butt of the knife is flat. Let's close it up and take a look at these beautiful G10 scales. So you have a nice subtle contouring on those scales, and then this is what really set this handle over the top for me. Look at the softening they did. That right there is not a hard edge. It's not sharp at all. So you have that contouring, and even though I would have liked this to be a little thicker, the width of the scales makes up for it by filling out the hand really nicely. You have a same color green G10 backspace so that it's flush, a hidden lanyard post back there so you don't have to have an extra hole in the scales. You have a deep carry clip that sits fairly deep. You're just going to have just a little bit sticking out. And I love the wire pocket clip. It doesn't scratch up things like my steering wheel. And it is tip up left or right hand carry. So they were thinking about the lefties here, which is awesome because this is a crossbar lock. So this is a completely ambidextrous knife. You can get to that blade hole left-handed. You can disengage it left-handed. So yeah, this one's going to be great for the lefties as well. Another area this one shines is the deployment. It's riding on cage shrink bearings. And the tension on these Omega springs for the crossbar lock, chef's kiss. They're dialed in perfectly. You have the long blade holes so they can make it stronger if they want, because you can come down here. Super, super snappy action. Fall shut action. And then I love how they put this flat portion right here in the hole, because whenever I go to thumb flick it, I can stick my thumb right there. Excellent. Yeah, very, very nice and snappy. And this is an adjustable crossbar lock. There's 3 holes in there to adjust the tension. If you want it to be a little stronger, a little weaker, you can do that. But out of box, in my opinion, it's perfection. You can also do the drop down if you like. So for me, A+ on the action. We just touched on the scales. You got nice smooth G10. They feel nice to the touch, but I don't find them to be slippery or anything. And I was really locked in whenever I was testing this one. You have their Petrified Fish logoed pivot there, brass colored pivot collar. I'm guessing it's probably aluminum. You got a T8 for your pivot. And up until this point, the only knock I have on the knife is they use T6 for these screws right here, which I'm okay with it. They look like nice, crisp hardware. I've taken apart several Petrified Fish and I've never stripped out a screw yet. Knock on wood. And on the reverse side, you have that pivot collar as well. Your blade centering is right down the pipe. I'm not holding on to the blade. I just wanted to focus there. So there you go. Perfectly down the middle. And it is a little wide, so it is going to take up a good bit of room. However, there's no flipper tab or anything to get in the way. And like I said, it goes in and out of the pocket nicely. Even with those smooth G10 scales, they got enough tension there. And that's all you have sticking out. I think that's perfectly acceptable. And if you're a lanyard guy, your lanyard will sit above the pocket seam right here. So you can grab it to pull it out if you want. Or just grab at the very top right there and pull it out. The lockup on this one, bank vault. No movement up or down, left to right. That's exactly what you want to see with the crossbar lock. There's no sliding up and down or anything like a lot of my Benchmades. And you do have a wide blade, so that's going to cause a little extra weight. However, they made sure to give you some thick G10 slabs. The only stainless you have is right there to house that crossbar lock. And there's your little 3 dots like I was talking about earlier. So they did what they could to keep the weight down on this one. Bringing this one to 4.18 ounces, and it definitely doesn't feel like that. I was thinking that it was going to be, in the upper 3s, but the balanced one in this knife has a lot to do with it. As you can see, it's perfectly balanced, so it's going to be more nimble in hand, and to me, like I said, giving it a much more lighter feeling. Now for some size comparisons with some other Petrified Fish knives. It's a little smaller than the brand new Petrified Fish Ripple. and it's pretty much identical in length to the Petrified Fish Beluga. And it's in the middle of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, and it's just a hair smaller than the Petrified Fish Toonie and a hair smaller than the CJRB Large Pyrite Light. And lastly, I gotta say, it definitely reminds me of the Kaiser Roach. It's just a hair smaller than the Roach, and it's just a hair smaller than the O-Knife Zilla. Now, absolutely no knife's perfect, even though this one's close. What are my nitpicks and complaints? Like I said earlier, there's only really two things I can be nitpicky about. Maybe give us a little bit more sharpening choil, but that's very minor because I can get a good bit of sharpenings, especially being that this one's already got the edge bevel laid back. So that's really a moot point for me. And like I said earlier, I would have loved T8 hardware throughout. But other than that, this knife comes in at $48, $48. So at this point, this is, for me, the best high-value knife of 2025. $48, nice full-size EDC knife that performed great, it's comfortable, it's got fantastic action. I think it looks nice. It's got a very versatile blade, very slicey blade. Everything that I look for in a knife, it has it. Check, 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 check. Checks all the boxes. So of course, if you're interested in this one, I will have it linked down below in the description. If you're already planning on picking up the knife and you want to help support the channel, you can use my links. If not, no sweat at all. If you have any questions in particular, feel free to ask me down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every one of y'all is having a fantastic day. And remember, keep those blades sharp. Smile more.